creep on to the men and each of us kill that one who was opposite to him, I with the axe and Hans with his knife, remembering that it must be done with a single stroke, that is, if they did not wake up and kill us, after which we were to get Inez out of her shelter, dressed or undressed, and make off with her into the darkness, where we were pretty sure of being able to baffle pursuit until we reached our camp. Provided that we could kill the two guards in the proper fashion, rather a large proviso, I admit. The thing was simple as shelling peas, which, notwithstanding the proverb, in my experience is not simple at all, since generally the shells crack the wrong way and at least one of the peas remained in the pod. So it happened in this case, for Janee, whom we had both forgotten, remained in the pod. I am sure I don't know why we overlooked her. Indeed, the error was inexcusable, especially as Hans had already experienced her foolishness and she was lying there before our eyes. I suppose that our minds were so concentrated upon the guard killing and the tragic and impressive Inez that there was no room in them for the stolid and matter-of-fact Janee. At any rate she proved to be the pea that would not come out of the pod. Often in my life I have felt terrified, not being by nature one of those who rejoices in dangers and wild adventures for their own sake, which only the stupid do, but who has, on the contrary, been forced to undertake them by the pressure of circumstances, a kind of hydraulic force that no one can resist, and who, having undertaken, has been carried through them, triumphing over the shrinkings of his flesh by some secret reserve of nerve power. Almost I am tempted to call it spirit power, something that lives beyond and yet inspires our frail and fallible bodies. Well, rarely have I been more frightened than I was at this moment. Actually I hung back until I saw that Hans, slithering through the grass like a thick yellow snake with a great knife in his right hand, was quite a foot ahead of me. Then my pride came to the rescue and I spurted, if one can spurt upon one's stomach, and drew level with him. After this we went at a pace so slow that any able-bodied snail would have left us standing still. Inch by inch we crept forward, lying motionless a while after each convulsive movement, once for quite a long time, since the left-hand cannibal seemed about to wake up, for he opened his mouth and yawned. If so, he changed his mind and rolling from a sitting posture onto his side, went to sleep much more soundly than before. A minute or so later the right-hand ruffian, my man, also stirred so sharply that I thought he had heard something. Apparently, however, he was only haunted by dreams resulting from an evil life, or perhaps by the prescience of its end, for after waving his arms and muttering something in a frightened voice, he too, wearied out, poor devil, sank back into sleep. At last we were on them, but paused because we could not see exactly where to strike and knew, each of us, that our first blow must be the last and fatal. A cloud had come up and dimmed what light there was, and we must wait for it to pass. It was a long wait, or so it seemed. At length that cloud did pass, and in faint outline I saw the classical head of my Amahagger bowed in deep sleep. With a heart beating as it does only in the fierce extremities of love or war, I hissed like a snake, which was our agreed signal. Then rising to my knees, I lifted the Zulu axe and struck with all my strength. The blow was straight and true. Umslopogaas himself could not have dealt a better. The victim in front of me uttered no sound and made no movement, only sank gently onto his side and there lay as dead as though he had never been born. It appeared that Hans had done equally well, since the other man kicked out his long legs which struck me on the knees. Then he also became strangely still. In short, Both of them were stone dead and would tell no stories this side of Judgment Day. Recovering my axe which had been wrenched from my hand, I crept forward and opened the curtain like rugs or blankets, I do not know which they were, that covered Inez. I heard her stir at once. The movement had wakened her, since captives sleep lightly. "Make no noise, Inez," I whispered. "It is I, Allan Quatermain, come to rescue you. Slip out and follow me. Do you understand?" "Yes, quite," she whispered back and began to rise. At this moment a blood curdling yell seemed to fill earth and heaven, a yell at the memory of which even now I feel faint, although I am writing years after its echoes died away. I may as well say at once that it came from Janee, who, awaking suddenly, had perceived against the background of the sky Hans standing over her, looking like a yellow devil with a long knife in his hand, which she thought was about to be used to murder her. So lacking self-restraint, she screamed in the most lusty fashion, for her lungs were excellent and the game was up. Instantly every man sleeping round the fire leapt to his feet and rushed in the direction of the echoes of Janee's yell. It was impossible to get Inez free of her tent arrangement or to do anything except whisper to her, "Feign sleep and know nothing. We will follow you. Your father is with us." Then I bolted back into the bushes, which Hans had reached already. A minute or two later, when we were clear of the hubbub and nearing our own camp, Hans remarked to me sententiously, "The Great Medicine worked well, Baas, but not quite well enough for what medicine can avail against a woman's folly." "It was our own folly we should blame," I answered. "We ought to have known that fool girl would shriek and taken precautions." "Yes, Baas, we ought to have killed her too, for nothing else would have kept her quiet," replied Hans in cheerful assent. "Now we shall have to pay for our mistake, for the hunt must go on." At this moment we stumbled across Robertson and Umslopogaas, who with the others and every living thing within a mile or two had also heard Janee's yell, and briefly told our story. When he learned how near we had been to rescuing his daughter, Robertson groaned, but Umslopogaas only said, "Well, there are two less of the man-eaters left to deal with. Still, for once your wisdom failed you, Macumazahn. When you had found the camp, you should have returned, so that we might all attack it together. Had we done so before dawn, there would not have been one of them left." "Yes," I answered, "I think that my wisdom did fail me, if I have any to fail. But come, perhaps we may catch them yet." So we advanced, Hans and I showing the road, but when we reached the place it was too late, for all that remained of the Amahagger or of Inez and Janee were the two dead men whom we had killed, and in that darkness pursuit was impossible. So we went back to our camp to rest and await the dawn before taking up the trail, only to find ourselves confronted with a new trouble. All the Strathmuir half-breeds, whom we had left behind as useless, had taken advantage of our absence and that of the Zulus to desert. They had just bolted back upon our tracks and vanished into the sea of bush. What became of them I do not know, as we never saw them again, but my belief is that these cowardly fellows all perished, for certainly not one of them reached Strathmuir. Fortunately for us, however, they departed in such a hurry that they left all their loads behind them, and even some of the guns they carried. Evidently Janee's yell was the last straw which broke the back of such nerve as remained to them. Doubtless they believed it to be the signal of attack by hordes of cannibals. As there was nothing to said or done, since any pursuit of these curs was out of the question, we made the best of things as they were.